Lois.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Oh, great. Here and Now is a production of NPR and WBUR. I'm Eric Westervelt.
And I'm Deepa Fernandez. You're listening to Here and Now.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the
The 2 p.m. session of Roanoke City Council is hereby called to order, and I will ask our clerk, Ms. Susan McCoy, to please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor Cobb.
Here.
Ms. White Boyd. Here. Mr. Volleson.
Here.
Ms. Moon Reynolds is absent. Ms. Sanchez Jones. Here. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Here.
And Mayor Lee.
Here, and the quorum is present. Is Pastor Jeff Wilson here? All right, then I'm going to lead you in an invocation, and I'll also lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, please stand. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we come to you at this appropriate time, first and foremost to say thank you. Thank you, Lord, for how you've watched over us and blessed us to be here on this day. And we ask for your guidance and direction as we, as elected and appointed officials, go about the business of this valley. We thank you for all the things that are going on and the blessings that you provided us. And Lord, we say a special prayer for those families that were affected by the hurricane, Lord, and especially our one of our sister cities, Asheville, North Carolina, who's going through some difficulty. But we trust, Lord, that you are still a God that sits high and looks low, and we trust that you're going to make everything okay. We give you all the praise, honor, and glory. It is in your Son's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you bring us that closed session? All right, the first order of business is for us to come out of closed session. And I'll ask our council Trish White Boyd trying to get something out of Tish Right Board to please bring us out of closed session.
Okay, Mayor. I move with respect to any closed meetings just concluded that each member of City Council in attendance certify to the best of his or her knowledge that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in any motion by which any closed meeting was convened, heard, discussed, or considered by members of council in attendance.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
We got to get a second from Mr. Ballison.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
Okay. Can you call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
I recuse.
And
Here we're doing closed session.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye. Thank you. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're in our second session for today. And we want to, first of all, make some announcements. We want to let you know that Roanoke is still seeking applications, the city is, for various boards and appointed committees that we have. And we're always, as a eight-time All-American city, always looking for citizens to come forward and help us as we seek to govern our city. So all you need to do is just fill out an application, which is a very easy and simple process. You can do that by contacting our clerk's office or at here in the city, or go to our webpage at www.roanokeva.gov to complete an online application. Very easy process. And so we encourage you to take advantage of that. Those who are watching us on RVTV and those in the audience that want to serve on a committee or board, we welcome you coming forward and doing that. So thank you. All right, we're going to go down now to presentations and acknowledgments. We have a presentation of a Vietnam War commemoration certificate from the United States Department of Defense. And I'm going to call on former City Councilman Bill Bestpitch to join me at the podium for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Once again, it's good to be addressing you from this side of the dais. I recently received a large manila envelope from the city clerk's office, and inside was this slightly smaller envelope addressed to City of Roanoke, attention Vietnam War commemoration, and then my name, 215 Church Avenue, and so forth. But this is not for me. This is for the City of Roanoke, and that's why I'm here this afternoon. The Vietnam War commemoration began in 2012 with a proclamation from President Obama to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the war in Vietnam. I had the honor and pleasure of serving on the Roanoke Valley Planning Committee along with representatives from the City of Salem, Town of Vinton, and Roanoke County, and chaired by Colonel John Miller, U.S. Army retired, and I'll ask him to share some of the events that we coordinated in a few minutes. I'm pleased to have him here with me today. The certificate reads, "On behalf of a grateful nation, congratulations on your superb efforts as a commemorative partner with the USA Vietnam War commemoration. Your impressive dedication, energy, and engagement has identified you as a top performer, a significant partner instrumental in thanking and honoring more than 4 million of our nation's Vietnam veterans and their families in 28,000 events across the country since 2012. We are indebted to you and your volunteers for the countless hours spent coordinating events and activities that recognize the service and sacrifice of this generation of veterans and families. These accomplishments have left a profound and lasting impact on our lives and communities. Thank you again for your excellent contribution to this noble mission done this 22nd day of July, 2024, Edward J. Crystal, Jr., Major General, U.S. Army. The cover letter, which I also received, explains that we hosted at least 5 events, putting us in the top 15% of the more than 13,000, I believe it was actually close to 14,000, commemorative partner organizations that participated. 15% of 13,000 is 950, so we did more than at least 11,050 partners. One aspect of the commemoration is the awarding of a lapel pin to each living veteran who served at the time on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces, regardless of location, during the period of 1 November 1955 to 15 May 1975, and a separate pin to surviving spouses of veterans who served during that time. Although I never received orders to Vietnam, I proudly wear this pin today under the American flag based on beginning my 8 years of service in the U.S. Army in 1972. The symbolism of the pin is the eagle represents courage, honor, and dedicated service to our nation. The blue circle matches the canton of the American flag and signifies vigilance, perseverance, and justice. The laurel wreath is a time-honored symbol representing victory, integrity, and strength. The stripes behind the eagle represent the American flag. The 6 stars represent the 6 allies who served, sacrificed, and fought alongside one another: Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, the Republic of Korea, Thailand, and the United States. Quote, "A grateful nation thanks and honors you," end quote, appears on the back. I have seen many veterans accepting their pins with tears streaming down their faces because no one ever thanked them when they returned from Vietnam or in the many years since. Colonel Miller has reported countless numbers of these pins to the veterans who earned them, and I'll now ask him to come and review some of the events that our committee organized and hosted. Colonel?
Thank you, Mr. Bestbridge. Good afternoon to our city council and especially to our mayor.
Good afternoon.
It was 2012. Congress passed legislation and President Obama signed a proclamation, and the Department of Defense was made executive agent for the administration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War commemorative program. The primary purpose: to thank and honor the Vietnam-era veterans and their families, and to award each veteran a unique Vietnam-era veteran lapel pin. To accomplish that mission, the Defense Department has approved almost 14,000 civil and government organizations to be their commemorative partners. Several of these partners are here in the Roanoke Valley, with the city of Roanoke, the city of Salem, town of Vinton, Roanoke County, the Association of the United States Army, and several others. They combined with other partners to host a number of events to honor the Vietnam veterans in our valley. Let me mention just a few. Arrangements were made with the U.S. Army's National Museum to obtain prints of the 32 original pieces of Vietnam soldier art, which were displayed at Hollins University, the Vinton War Memorial, and 7 additional sites around our Commonwealth. An estimated 10,000 visited those exhibits. For 1 week, we hosted a Vietnam mobile wall on the front grounds of the Salem VA. With the help of veteran and military service organizations, the wall was open 24/7, and more than 8,000 visited. A daily ceremony included the presentation of the lapel pin. At the Salem Civic Center, the 7 local high school bands performed, in turn, a miniature concert of popular music from the 1960s. culminating in a combined patriotic concert under the baton of Maestro David Stewart Wiley. The partners also conducted a special Vietnam lapel pinning ceremony on Military Appreciation Night at the Salem Red Sox Stadium. More than 100 Vietnam vets were awarded the pin at that event. Additionally, with the help of the partners, numerous smaller ceremonies have been hosted to recognize our Vietnam veterans and their families, and to provide the lapel pin to those who had not received it. More than 3,000 pins have now been awarded in ceremonies with very large attendance or in a ceremony for a single Vietnam veteran under hospice care. The program will end on Veterans Day 2025, but until then, we continue to distribute the pins to our Vietnam-era veterans, especially those who served on active duty at any time, any place, during the period 1 November 1955 to 15 May 1975. The next pinning ceremony will be held at the Salem VA Town Hall on the 7th of November at 12 noon, Building 5 Auditorium. I hope that this council will allow me to get the word out to as many people as possible. You just need to show up and register, or you can talk to me about other opportunities to receive the pin. The City of Roanoke has been instrumental in executing this program, not only in the city proper, but in the greater Roanoke Valley. The outstanding support of the veteran-friendly Roanoke City Council, past and present, is gratefully acknowledged. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And
Mayor, I will leave this with the clerk's office for display in the connecting hallway between the north and south sides of this building. There already is a certificate of appreciation, but this is the top performer certificate, so we would like that to go up there along with the other things that honor our veteran community. Thank you so much.
Bill, let me first of all thank you. One of the reasons we wanted you to do this is because you've always been an advocate for our veterans, and thank you all for your service. And also, we got a new procedure now. We always take photo ops when people come and bring certificates. So I would ask that if both of you all will come up and stand right in front of the podium here, and we'll take a picture of you. And thank you. And I ask everybody if you would stand and join me in thanking our veterans. Good to see you, Bill. Okay. Look straight ahead and smile, guys.
I'll come in with
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
you. We got some.
Thank you so much. It's great meeting you.
He has something to say. You want to say something?
Yeah.
You want to say something?
All right, colleagues, you ever have anything you want to say, or we'll move right on?
I do, Mayor.
All right. That's right, board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Bestpitch and Mr. Miller and any veterans, I just certainly want to thank you for your service. You know, my father was killed in the Vietnam War, and I was 3 years old, and my mother was pregnant with my brother, so my brother never got to see, and I'm sure you know this story, Mr. Bestpitch, because you've been around my husband, but the veterans were not appreciated because people felt like they shouldn't have been there. Well, the veterans, they didn't want to go to that war, and when they returned, they were just treated so badly. You know, my husband's a Vietnam veteran, so I understand the pain that they went through because I hear it often from a lot of people, and I just want to say thank you for that. I was born on Veterans Day, and a lot of the veterans that my husband advocated, you know, he was appointed by the Warner administration as Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Veteran Services to advocate for veterans and their benefits and their services until he retired. So I just want to say thank you for doing that because I have a whole list of veterans in my family, from my grandfather, both grandfathers, both my brothers. So I have a great appreciation for what you've done and the sacrifices that you make to protect us and our country. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, Councilwoman White Boyd. I just want to repeat one of the numbers that Colonel Miller just gave you. He has presented more than 3,000 of these pins just to veterans in our area. More than 3,000. So they finally received the thank you that they never got, as you said, when they came home.
Thank you. Thank you, Colonel.
Could I just add that too often we confuse the war with the warrior. And in this instance, it's one time that we recognize the warrior and not time to that Vietnam conflict.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You both. All right, the next item on our agenda is the hearing of citizens upon public matters. Madam Clerk, do we have any citizens that have signed up?
Yes, we do. We have 4 speakers.
Okay. Could you call them in the order of their
Yes.
signing up?
I'll call them 2 at a time. The first speaker is Charles Jones, and the second speaker is Barbara Dirk.
Mr. Jones? All right, Barbara Dirk is their second speaker.
Okay, let's see, Barbara Dirk, come forward.
Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to Roanoke City, and Roanoke City greenways are open. That all the debris has been cleared, and this alternative transportation corridor can be used by all the citizens. So thank you, Roanoke City.
Thank you.
I am Barbara Dirk, and I go by Connect Now. I'm a member of the Virginia Bicycling Federation. In September, I spoke to you about a legislative priorities, and I sent those to the Regional Commission, and I was told that I am not working the process correctly. But I'd like to reiterate to you that I would like for the Legislative Committee for Roanoke City and the region to recognize the Roanoke Valley as the transportation hub of Southwest Virginia. I ask for a study to identify strategies to connect the hub to neighboring communities like Rocky Mount, Lexington, Newcastle, Blacksburg. That we do have one connector right now, and that's the SmartWay bus. But I needed the hours to be extended for me to go to a performance at the Mall Center or for them to come to something at the Berglund Center. The SmartWay bus hours do not allow us to use transit to get us back and forth from Blacksburg. I am asking to prioritize the funding for the Valley to Valley Greenway Trail. Cyclists and walkers and runners can use the alternative transportation corridor to commute between here and Blacksburg. And with the construction on 581, a lot of times cyclists can actually get to Blacksburg safer and sooner than they can by using I-81. So connect the New River Valley to the Roanoke Valley by trail. I'd also like you to support legislation to encourage incentives to reach the goal of Vision Zero. And then I have another that because the 250 Commission is happening in Roanoke, and we're celebrating the 250th birthday of our country. Bike Route 76 was originally written in 1976 to commemorate the celebration of the 200th birthday of our country. And in 2026, it's going to be 50 years since that ride was initially done. So I have asked Adventure Cycling, who had originally did Dan Burden, if you know of any of these bicycle heroes, who did their 76 route. Their Adventure Cycling is going and has proposed and advertised a route to be ridden next year. And it will go from Astoria, Oregon to Yorktown Battlefield. Well, people come from around the world to ride Bike Route 76. And they usually start in the Pacific and go all the way to the Atlantic. And that's where the catch is, because in Virginia, the Bike Route 76 only goes to Yorktown. It doesn't go to the Atlantic Ocean. And it needs to be officially designated and signed to go from Yorktown Battlefield to the Atlantic Ocean so people can ride all of that. It's happening next year, and then in 76, I'm hoping that we can have a contingent through Virginia to connect our cities and connect our Virginians. And the Virginia Bicycling Federation has a pin for people that ride the entire bike route from Astoria, Oregon to Yorktown. And we, as a Virginia Bicycling Federation members, give people a pin for just riding the 580 miles that are part of Virginia. And you can ride it in bits and pieces, or you can ride it all in all. So I'm giving you a pin, and I'm on your honor to ride it. Now, this is on bicycle or scooter or electric bicycle, and car doesn't really count, but if you want to do it by car, that's fine too. And then we're honored to have the 250 Commission members here today, and so I'd like Terry Austin and Cindy to have a pin too. Thank you. Can you all take these pins? Wear them with pride.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Brian McConnell and Kathy Carter.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lee, Dr. Patton, council members. I've retitled my talk to you and retitled it The Unholy Dominance of Story A. And last time I addressed you, I discussed an article that I had published on September 13th on medium.com entitled Once Upon a Time, Somewhere Between Story A and Story B. And in that article, basically I compare Story A as a narrative of separation, whose aspects tend to be complicated, competitive, mechanistic, to that of Story B, that by contrast is a narrative of inner being. It's complex, it's participatory, and it's organic rather than mechanistic. This is a major shift in paradigm that is in the process of taking place. It's being championed by some of the finest minds in our nation, if not the world. It's not getting a lot of play here in Roanoke. What I'm experiencing on the ground is systemic failure across multiple sectors, from socioeconomic to educational to criminal justice. But me, what's my role? I aspire to be a change maker in all this. I discussed with you a few weeks ago that I had been served a material noncompliance, notice of material noncompliance by the managers of my residence. That took a little over 3 weeks, basically, where I was mobilized legal support from the Legal Aid Society here in Roanoke to address that. Following that, since that time, basically the building has turned into a disaster zone. Carpet has been ripped up, holes punched in the ceiling, out in the lobby. There is no longer any common area space within the building. Residents do not and have not had access to washers and dryers over the last 3 weeks. I've literally been taking my laundry on the bus out to Grandin to get it. It's a very time-intensive exercise on my part. What have I been doing? I've been trying to organize. This got to a place where it's just off the hook. Nothing's being done. No one's paying any attention to it. And it's been off the hook for a long time. So me being the aspiring change maker, I say, I do an AI chat check. And I get a 9-point outline back and how to organize the 20 residents in the building using principles of sociocracy to basically empower them, and so that also preserves their liberation, so they aren't captives in this dysfunctional, miserable system. But my best efforts earlier today in doing that, I didn't really plan on being here. It wasn't in my plan to do that. Instead, my plan was to organize this, but I go to use library space that I've been utilizing well for more than 10 years to this point. That's the length of time I've been in my building. And the space over recent weeks has been annexed by Roanoke Works program. Who's the genius among you that have made that choice, that to slowly, gradually take away public space from public use for, I see you guys are kind of getting bored with me and looking around, so I'll just end it with that. That's, one thing I do appreciate, having the opportunity to address council as freely and readily as I am. That I'm very grateful for. Thanks.
Thank you.
Kathy Carter.
Yes.
It does help. And everyone gets 5 minutes because it's below 5 people.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Kathy Carter, Friends of Washington Park. I'm also a board member for the Parks and Recreation Department, and I'm also a Gainsborough neighborhood member. Coming before you today as an advocate for the Caretaker's Cottage at Booker T. Washington Park. I want to thank the council for appointing Ms. Moon Reynolds, and we lost one, Mr. Pretty, to work with us in getting some things accomplished. We appreciate your efforts in doing that. And based on John Garland's preliminary proposal, we have been following that plan, and we have raised the $5,000 that was asked of us to pay for a structural engineer. And, and right now we're about to enter into a memorandum of agreement with one of our partners, the Roanoke Valley Preservation Foundation, to become the fiduciary of these funds. The organization is still doing their community engagements. We've held over 20 different outdoor events. We're now working on some of the local churches to get their feedback. And once that is accomplished, we will have been able to identify the adaptive reuse, the best plan for what the community wants. And after that takes place, then we're working with Katie Slusher with Parks and Rec. She wants to then take the data that we have received to dig a little further into getting a clearer picture. Our hope and what we've all been discussing is that the house will be used as a source for the park, to incorporate it into the park's use.
some of the things that people have been saying is that because we're still in a food desert from that end of the city, from where the Civic Center is, all the way up Gainesboro to parts of Melrose, Orange, and in that community, we're still in a food desert. And so they were hoping that there would be some kind of small snack-like shop where they can get hot sandwiches that's nearby, people who are who are riding bikes that don't have transportation. So we're hoping to incorporate the park's use for this building. People have asked for it to be some type of gathering place where they can come and get some educational training. It could be a small meeting place, and to make sure that we incorporate the history of that building. And so we're hoping that the city will see this as a significant and a cultural place for the city, not just one community, because this is the only building that remains that actually incorporates the early white settlers with the black citizens. And we're hoping that from all of the documents that I've read that says from the early 1800s that this location is the gateway to the north or the gateway to the city. And we're hoping that the city will understand that and just see how important it is and help us to build it up, not just for one community, but for the entire city. And I saw some of Sanchez's, Jones, when you went to a sister city and you came and you did a presentation, and I saw how the city was very involved and enthusiastic about the history. And so we have history in Roanoke, and I hope that you would be enthusiastic about what we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last speaker.
All right. All right, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by members of City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussions of the items. If discussion is desired, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. I need a motion for the consent agenda.
I move the consent agenda.
Second.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Who did the second? I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Peter. Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mayor Lee?
Aye. And the consent agenda is approved. Do you have a page 8? I don't think it's a page 8. All right, the next item on our agenda, Madam Clerk, is the regular agenda?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, item 5 is public hearings. We have none today. And item 6 is petitions and communications. 6.1 is the presentation of information with regard to the Virginia American Revolution 250 Commission, which is known as VA 250. And I'm pleased to recognize and to ask him to come up, Delegate Terry Austin from Botetourt, who has the executive director, Cheryl Wilson, is with him, and there's another gentleman that's with him. And I'm glad that, Delegate, come on up to the podium, and it's good to see you. Thank you for being here, and I've been, Delegate Austin and I talked about this, and I thought this was a good opportunity to come before council, and I want them to come and present this today. So thank you all for coming, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and esteemed members of council. It's my privilege and honor to be back before you. It's been quite a while since I've been in this chamber, but I always feel welcome when I come, and I know I'm among friends. And I must say, the mayor and I have had the privilege of serving a long-term friendship and great respect and admiration for what the mayor's done for the city. So, Mr. Mayor, I thank you for that.
Thank you.
I am here today along with Cheryl Wilson, the Executive Director of the VA 250, and Mr. Eric Mundy, who serves on the commission of the VA 250 from here in the Valley. I'm here to speak in regard to what's called the semi-quincentennial. And from that point forward, we'll refer to it as VA 250 because it's a lot easier. So, the semi-quincentennial is the 250th birthday of our nation. And Mr. Mayor, I have the privilege of serving as the chair. Several years ago, a couple of years ago, I was in my office on the 13th floor in the General Assembly building, and a good friend of mine, Mr. Ben Dandy, a lobbyist, walked in my office, and he said, Doug and Austin, I have a question to ask you. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, if I could get the speaker to appoint you to serve on a VA 250, would you serve? And I said, well, to begin with, I've never denied the speaker anything he asked. And the second thing is, if you told me what the VA 250 was, I would entertain it. And so he did. And I went to our first meeting, our organizational meeting, and I was elected chairman for 2 years. And Senator Locke is my vice chair, a great friend of mine, and I'm going into my third year as chairman. Senator Locke said she'd prefer that I keep doing it. And but it's an honor. It's an honor. And the VA 250 is commissioned to represent Virginia's birthday, our 250th birthday, our place in the nation. But when I assumed that responsibility of being chairman along with Senator Locke, we pledged that we would be all-inclusive, that we would include everyone, regardless of your race, your religion, or where you came from, in our 250th celebration. If you're in Virginia, you're in the United States of America, and it's our birthday. So we're trying to celebrate this, all of Virginia. We're celebrating from Abington to Virginia Beach and from Northern Virginia to Danville. And we've contracted with Dwayne Yancey, and you may have read a series of his articles in the Cardinal News. And if you haven't, I'd encourage you to go back and look at them. They're very entertaining, and they're very interesting. They do speak of the history. And as I told Councilman Fitzpatrick earlier, the benefit of that is we know our history somewhat here, or we know of events that occurred here, but I don't know what happened in Tidewater or Northern Virginia or Danville or maybe the muster fields of Abington. But if you read his articles, it enlightens us as to how we declared our independence. A proclamation line that the king placed around the 13 colonies and said, if you venture beyond that, I'm not going to protect you. And that happened as we advanced west to Wytheville in that area. Andrew Lewis and others gathered and wrote a proclamation to say, if you're not going to protect us, we're not going to pay your taxes, king. And that incited the revolution. That was the beginning of the revolution. So I'm honored and privileged. It takes a world of my time. I don't have a lot of time to spare, but I spend a lot of time with the director and Eric, and we have a lot of meetings, and we have a lot of events, and it's an expensive thing, but we're putting together a celebration worthy of Virginia. This past July, we celebrated at the state capitol. We had the Roanoke Symphony come play. We had choir sing. We didn't have fireworks. We had a drone display in the sky. It was amazing. I think you maybe will see that today. It was we didn't have children crying because of the explosion of the fireworks or dogs barking, and the symphony was playing. And first I thought, well, how can you have the 4th of July without fireworks? Well, you can, and it works. And Mayor, you and I have kind of got to catch up with the times probably, but so anyway, I'm honored to be here today, and And in doing that, and saying that we're going to celebrate all over Virginia, having celebrated in Richmond this past year, I've decided it would be good if we celebrated here in Roanoke next year on the 3rd, and then go to Fort Monroe on the 4th. And then we'll conclude in 26 at George Washington's home in late June, and then back in Williamsburg on July the 4th with somewhat of a finale on the 250th, July the 4th, for our nation. I will say, we've held 2 events in Williamsburg for the last 2 years, and Cheryl has organized those along with the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation and others. The first year, I think we had 32 states in attendance come to Virginia. There were workshops. We've had phenomenal speakers, Supreme Court justices, others. This year, we had 34 other states come to Virginia. I sat with a group from Hudson Valley, New York, who said, man, I wish we had what you all have here in Virginia. The governor of New York won't help us at all. We don't have any funding. We're not celebrating. And I'm proud to say that our governor's helped us, the commission, the legislature's funded it, and we are assembling. We met on March the 12th of 23, at the Williamsburg Lodge, we organized, and we marched over to Raleigh Tavern, where Mr. Mundy read a resolution on March the 12th, the same day that the resolution from the Fincastle Commission came to Williamsburg to Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, and Richard Lightfoot Lee, was read on March the 12th, 250 years to the day, gentlemen and ladies, 250 years to the day we marched to that Raleigh's Tavern. Now, Raleigh's Tavern is not in the exact same location, but we were in Williamsburg. How phenomenal is that? How can the rest of the nation say that we are not the birthplace of our nation? And we should demonstrate that with a celebration worthy of. So I'm requesting, and Cheryl's going to expand upon that we do it here next July the 3rd in Roanoke, and then we'll go to Fort Monroe on the 4th and celebrate down there with Senator Locke. So now, Mr. Mayor, if you allow me, I would turn the podium over to the director, Ms. Cheryl Wilson. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'd like to just expand a little bit on some of the things the chairman has mentioned, and I think you have some information in your packets. But Virginia leads the nation in planning for and commemorating the 250th. And of course, you'd expect me to say that, but I do because it's true. Virginia VA 250's goals are to educate Virginians on the central role that Virginia played in the founding of our nation and why it still matters today. To engage every citizen and to come together in that shared community, and to inspire Americans to recommit to the ideas and ideals that our nation was founded on. And of course, the chairman mentioned the nation thinks of the semi-quincentennial as 2026, but here in Virginia, it's already begun. There are so many stories to tell. Virginia's history is America's story. And while we come to you to ask for this partnership next July, I'd also like to highlight that another big 250th anniversary will happen right here in Roanoke in January. January 18th will be the 250th anniversary of the Fincastle resolutions, and the State Commission will gather with the Historical Society of Western Virginia to mark the 250th anniversary of the signing of those resolutions on January 18th, and I hope you will all join as our distinguished guests, because what the world doesn't know, we all have heard of Patrick Henry's Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death speech. The Fincastle resolutions were the first time that colonists said, months before Patrick Henry, I'm willing to die for this independence. And that happened right here in this area. So we're going to gather to talk about those things. And there's going to be a mobile museum. There's going to be wonderful, wonderful things, because the ultimate goal is to come together in creating a more perfect union. And with that, with your indulgence, I'd like to show you just this few-minute video that contextualizes the 4th of July program at the state capitol this past year and what we can look forward to this year.
With 2026, we'll see commemorations across the nation for its 250th anniversary. July 4th, 2026, we'll see commemorations across the nation for its 250th anniversary. But in Virginia, the semi-quincentennial has already begun. In 2024, for the first time in over a century, Virginians and Americans from all walks of life join together at the Virginia State Capitol for a celebration of freedom.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Freedom is indeed the heartbeat that unites us all as Americans. Our program began intentionally this evening with a trio of drum beats, heartbeats, if you will, that represent cultures that founded this great nation. These drum beats are the heartbeats of our nation, a country where cultures came together and the world was forever changed. Each drum beat is different, yet all speak deeply to us and remind us, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. God bless America.
As the the chair of the VA 250 and vice chair, it is our honor to welcome you to a very special Independence Day celebration.
History is not just about the past. It is about the present and where we are going in the future together. The founders knew there was more work required 250 years ago, and work remains to be done. Virginia's history is America's story.
So I implore you, citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and all citizens of the United States of America, to become engaged in this 250th commemoration. Learn your history, learn my history, learn our history. Glory, glory, everybody sing glory.
Those words that were used, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men and women are created equal. Think about that idea. The men that came up with that idea may have been imperfect, but the idea was perfect, and it was perfection.
Happy Independence Day, Virginia. And on July 4th, 1776, the spirit of America was birthed. And that spirit flowed across this great country. And that spirit is alive and well today.
Sun in the sky, you know how I feel.
As Virginia led the movement towards independence, let us once again lead the semi-quincentennial movement. Let us lead as we educate ourselves about who we are and where we come from. Let us lead as we engage with one another, learn each other's stories, and see ourselves more clearly. Let us lead as we renew our commitment to citizenship. The drums that opened our program this evening remind us, e pluribus unum, out of many, one.
Mr. Mayor, the chairman, and I respectfully request partnership of the city of Roanoke in co-presenting next year's Freedom Festival at River's Edge Park.
Thank you. Members of council, any thoughts?
We'd be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
All right, seems like no questions. I think we're all unanimous in supporting and being a partner there. Delegate, and thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. And we look forward to you guiding us in terms of what we need to do. And we'll be here, and it's so good to see you all again.
Y'all just let us know who we need to work with, and our staff will work with them, and we'll see if we can organize, put together something worthy of that. Thank you.
That'd be great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to extend my appreciation to you all over the course of many years that I've served in the legislature. Your agreement and to work together to improve the valley. You know, we've all worked together, Interstate 81, the airport, Metro, Amtrak. Everything we're doing has a huge effect on this region. Just recently, I took the Secretary of Transportation and the Commissioner down 220 in what we call the BRIC, the Blue Ridge Innovation Corridor, and we identified the industrial park in Franklin County and Martinsville and on over to Berry Hill. And I serve on MEI, which is a major economic incentives, and we've got a meeting coming up next week to entertain something that could be quite significant for our region again. Right now, our region, that region, from Blacksburg to Roanoke to Botetourt to Martinsville to Danville, is outgrowing all the other regions in the Commonwealth. Collectively, we're outgrowing all the other regions, and once this announcement comes out, it'll only further enhance that. So I just wanted to take this time, Mr. Chairman. I don't get before Mr. Mayor, I don't get before you that often to say thank you, but I appreciate the relationship.
Well, thank you for your long-standing work in this valley, the community, and the state. Thank you, Delegate Lawson, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
All right, we're now down to item number 7, where we'll have reports of city officers, and I'm pleased to recognize our interim city manager, Dr. Leah Patton, for the briefings that she has to introduce.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. I have 2 briefings this afternoon. I'll introduce the first. As a follow-up to our recent discussion surrounding bicycle safety and training, which we discussed and had a citizen to present at our last meeting, Director Ross Campbell will now provide a brief overview of the protected mobility tracks and other valuable training resources available to our community. These initiatives are part of an ongoing effort to enhance safety and accessibility for cyclists across the city. Mr. Campbell.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the System Council. It is my pleasure to stand before you today and present on, as our interim city manager mentioned, mobility tracks. I will refer to them as cycle tracks and mobility tracks, but really we are referring specifically to mobility tracks in that they are not just for bicycles. They are for all users of our streets, whether you are on a bicycle, a scooter, pushing a stroller, or walking. They are for all of us. So anyway, I will start with that, and then I will move on into a brief overview of some of the bicycle training opportunities we have here available to us in the city of Roanoke. If we can get this, there we go. All righty, so speaking of cycle tracks and what cycle tracks we have in Roanoke. So currently today we have 2 cycle tracks. Our first one was constructed in December of 2023. This was part of our regular pavement maintenance cycle. Our paving program is a maintenance activity, and as directed in our Complete Streets policy here in the city of Roanoke, we are to consider additional forms of mobility in that policy. Cycle tracks are a form of maintenance and constructed at minimal additional cost to regular pavement maintenance. So the 9th Street cycle track, which runs from Riverland Road to Highland Avenue in about a mile in distance, was our first one here within the city limits of Roanoke. It should be noted that of the households in the immediate vicinity, nearly 1 in 10% are households without a vehicle in that household. So this mobility track is an important connectivity item to allow all citizens of Roanoke to live, to learn, to work, and to play. Not only does it provide safe transportation, but it also connects the Roanoke River Greenway, Morningside Park, Belmont Fallon Library, Fishwick Middle School, the Boys and Girls Club of Southwest Virginia, and the forthcoming Riverdale multi-use development. Our second cycle track was recently completed here in August of this year. It is a 1.5 miles from 6th Street to 22nd Street in Northwest. And along with the same intentionality, we are connecting neighborhoods with vital services. So we are providing connectivity along with some future efforts that will happen to the Salem Turnpike walkability project that we just completed for the Lansdowne Envision Center to downtown Roanoke, to the Central Business District. These cycle tracks are going to continue to grow. Right now in planning, and we hope to award here, and it will be presented as part of the ARPA discussion here later on, a forthcoming cycle track that will be constructed in Greensboro Northwest that will run from Burrell Street, or the distance of Burrell Street, through 2nd Avenue and connecting the Central Business District to those neighborhoods. So why cycle tracks? As I mentioned, they come at a marginal additional cost to a regular maintenance process of paving. But they do significantly enhance safety. What do I mean by safety? As a cyclist, riding in a bike lane with maybe parking along the side, you're at risk of dooring, where motorists may open their door to get out of a parked vehicle, or you have potential for encroachment. By adding cycle tracks, we increase comfort. Federal Highway Administration nationwide surveys show that nearly 56% of all citizens, actually not nearly, that's specifically, 56% of all citizens find that cycle tracks are far more comfortable compared to just 5 to 9% for bike lanes. So, as we consider our corridors in the maintenance of our roads and paving program, we are looking, as part of our complete street policy, for our collectors. So these are our midline streets, not the arterials, the main streets, but our midline streets, looking at opportunities to add cycle tracks for this appeal and ease and comfort. We are also constructing them in a way that we can maintain them. We have heard from citizens that we cannot maintain them because we don't have sufficient sweepers. That is not correct. We do have sweepers that are able to maintain the cycle tracks that we have today, and we were intentional in that design and the layout so that the equipment we have in our inventory today can support the maintenance of those cycle tracks. We have also found that because there is less vehicle travel in those lanes, that the pavement actually lasts longer in those sections as well. I'm going to share with you a couple of short video clips that explain from our Complete Street Corridor, Mr. Rob Issam, who is here in the audience today, the process where we went through the community engagement. Mr. Issam and some of his colleagues went door to door along 9th Street, knocking on all the residents' doors and explaining what the cycle track was and getting community buy-in. So with your permission, I'll switch over to those videos and share those with you now.
Hi, I'm Rob Issam, the Complete Streets and Vision Zero Coordinator for the City of Roanoke. I'm here today to talk about the 9th Street repaving and restriping project. So all of 9th Street is going to be repaved. On the west side, we're going to have a striped, defined parking area all the way from the bridge or near the bridge all the way to Highland. And then crosswalks like this that are just two parallel lines will become improved high visibility crosswalks with big 10-foot wide bars. Then we're going to have a 10-foot travel lane, a center line, another 10-foot travel lane, and 10 foot is much narrower than the lanes that we have now. That's an important aspect because that calms traffic and it encourages slower motor vehicle speeds. Over here is where it gets really interesting. We're going to have a buffer space and then a two-way cycle track. This is the first of its kind in the City of Roanoke where both bike travel lanes are on the same side of the street. Both cycle track lanes are 5 feet wide. And there's a buffer between them to create physical separation between the cyclists and the motorists.
So before we started the work, that video was actually shared on our social media accounts and of course with our partners at RVTV. After the project, we presented an additional video that was released in the same way, explaining how to use the cycle track because it is slightly different.
Here we are on 9th Street and our project is completed. We have a lined and defined parking lane, a 10-foot travel lane, another 10-foot travel lane, and then we've got our 3-foot buffer space and then our first of its kind in the City of Roanoke, a two-way mobility track or cycle track.
And the way you drive alongside a two-way cycle track is a little bit different than the way you drive along a one-way bike lane. Let's turn right here. Essentially, as a motorist, you slow, signal, and then you've got to look both ways to be sure there's not a cyclist coming from your right and coming downhill or south, and then you can turn right. We're going to make the left turn up ahead right after the gas station, and you'll see on the right-hand side it says turning vehicles yield to bikes. So when you get ready to make this left-hand turn, you have to look uphill as well to be sure there's not a cyclist coming down the cycle track. Because the cyclist could be coming up or heading north, or they could be coming down. So you have to look both ways when turning left. Now we are coming at the cycle track from a side street. And you'll see the new sign underneath the stop sign that says two-way bicycle crossing traffic. So you want to come to a full stop and not just look left, but also look right to be sure there's not cyclists coming from up the hill, and then you can safely turn whichever direction you're going.
So when you're a cyclist riding south in the cycle track, this is not something that motorists are used to seeing. So at every intersection, you want to just check over your shoulder to be sure a motorist isn't going to turn left in front of you. And then you also want to make eye contact with anybody who's turning here, and that way you know you can continue through the intersection safely. So this is it, the brand new 9th Street cycle track or mobility track. It's the first of its type in the city of Roanoke. There's so many really cool things along 9th Street. We've got the Greenway, Morningside Park, 2 schools, lots of little shops up the street too. So come, ride your bike, and enjoy.
So I do want to point out before I move on to the next subject, as you can observe from that video, not only did we approach the community engagement side before we completed the project, but when we undertook the project, we approached the training after the fact, both from the point of view of a motorist and the point of view of a cyclist, so that the community is aware of the changes. And as I said, those were shared via social media accounts on the city and with our partners at Roanoke Valley Television. Would also like to point out, as I mentioned earlier in my remarks, that the cost is minimal. Cycle tracks use existing pavement width, they use existing drainage, so we do not have to undertake those expenses as far as creating extra pavement that doesn't exist today, nor do we have to undertake expensive stormwater management projects that may be outside of our capital program that we have identified for stormwater management. They do rely on some additional signage and paint along with some bollards. And so there is some cost, but it is minimal at best comparative to maybe a buffered bike lane. I'm going to switch topics here briefly and move over to our bicycle training program. And these are efforts that have been conducted again by our transportation division within the city, and specifically Mr. Issam and his colleagues. The first one I want to draw your attention to, and this is another video that is posted on RVTV, but I'm not going to play the clip. But this is the traffic garden that has been built at Westside Elementary School. Traffic gardens are a small-scale set of streets designed for educational programs. And so in a safe environment, we have a platform for riders of all ages and all abilities to learn how to safely follow the rules of the road when operating a bicycle. They are meant for not only use with our elementary school programs, but because of its openness to the community, other community organizations and groups are able to use that facility for training, bicycle education, and safety. The next program that we have is our Walk and Roll to School Toolkit. This document was published here in July of 2024, and this was developed in conjunction with our partners at the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles, as well as our colleagues at Roanoke City Schools. This is a short pamphlet that is intended to educate and support students by parents, by guardians, and educators on alternative means of moving to school, whether it be walking, whether it mean biking, skating, or traveling even in a wheelchair to get to school safely. And again, this is hanging on our city website. The next link that I want to show you is our bicycle education for all ages. Again, hanging on our city website on Plan Roanoke, includes important safety tips and updates to laws. As you can see at the top of the screen, it's specifically directed at drivers. One of the things that is highlighted in this is a new Virginia law that was recently passed in 2021. It's the 3-foot pass law. And so again, there are 3 parts to this code. It is that motorists are to pass bicyclists along the shoulder with at least 3 foot. It also allows for motorists to cross a double yellow line while moving around the bicyclist and then cross back over when it is safe to do so. And so that is new on the books here in the state of Virginia. The next item that I want to draw your attention to is a bikes and pedestrian interactions on our greenways. This is another for all ages training. We developed this video, again posted on Roanoke Valley Television's site, along with our friends at Play Roanoke and Parks and Rec, to demonstrate how pedestrians and bicyclists are to interact with each other on the greenway. And then there are also cycling training resources from state and nonprofits, and I've included in the briefing materials a few links, as well as a community-sponsored event put on by Cardinal Bicycles here in the Valley. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, this concludes my brief, and I am available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ross. Any thoughts or comments? Vice Mayor, I'll come to you, please.
Ross, thank you for this update, and I really commend the videos. They're very well done, and as many times as we can share those, and as frequently as we can share them, the better, especially as we're building out more of these cycle tracks throughout the city. I find that, because we have a lot of new people coming into the community, we're seeing increased infrastructure related to pedestrian and bicycle safety. Any way that we can amplify these safety practices is really important. So I commend everyone who's been a part of putting these together, and just encourage not only leaders but citizens to watch these videos and share them with neighbors as we continue to make Roanoke a great place for people to live and have multimodal ways to get around the city.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that comment, Vice Mayor. It is certainly our responsibility to keep each other safe, and that was the pivot point of this year's DMV safety campaign, is keeping each other safe, and it's a responsibility that each of us have, whether we're in a vehicle or on a cycle or on a scooter, and certainly providing those equitable opportunities to enjoy the valley at all levels, regardless of our modes of transportation.
Mr. Walson.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell, for your presentation. I'm really excited about the growth in the cycle tracks that we've seen, or like mobility tracks that we have. I'm wondering, beyond the Gainsborough mobility track, are there any future ones that we're starting to plan? I would love to see one possibly coming to the downtown area, help people get here.
We are always looking at opportunities, and as we review those opportunities, we of course go through the complete street process, where those are coordinated amongst all staff, including our planning division, and ultimately discussed with the manager's office. And we'll make sure to, as we build out that plan, share that through the manager's office with council.
Thank you.
Let me give a minute, and I'll come right back to you.
Yeah, I'll be brief, Mayor. I think I mentioned it before. Thank you, Mr. Campbell, for the video and the trainings. Those are going to be very helpful. But I think I mentioned to Dr. Patton, maybe the last council meeting, they're really making me feel more comfortable, but we've got to figure out a way to keep people from parking in the bike lane, because that's what creates the hazard. And we talked about that. I know Bev is nodding. That's where I have problem, because then it puts you, or even the trash cans sitting in the bike lane, that still puts you out in the street, and it can be very dangerous. So I'm not sure what can we do to maybe address that. Maybe Dr. Patton, you can just send the police over there every time?
Councilwoman, thank you for calling that to my attention, because I think you sent me a picture of cars, and so I will make sure that not only Chief Booth knows, but Mr. Campbell is aware, and Mr. Powell also, because there are people, as you indicated, who are putting out their waste containers in the bike lane, and so we'll probably have to do some kind of information through Mrs. Corbin to let people know that they cannot put their receptacles there, nor are you to park your car in a back lane if you're running in somebody's house. There's
That's a good
somewhere
idea.
else to park.
Yeah, I never thought about doing a campaign through Mrs. Corbett, and the one I sent you was actually two car
That's right.
businesses who had the car lots full, so then they were parking them.
That's right.
That's the ones I sent you, but that's a good idea to
Right.
do a little campaign,
That's right.
just awareness, just to let people know, this is really, and we have some with no parking, but it's just a matter of people getting used to it. This is still new for a lot of people in the city, so just a matter of getting used to it.
It's a growth opportunity for all of us.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Fitzpatrick.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Ross, let me thank you for really good reports. I remember as a young child looking at bicycle traffic displays that people were doing in other cities, and we never had one here. And I always thought that was such a great idea, so that's wonderful. And I hope we'll look at maybe doing at least one other one so that we kind of have it accessible to folks throughout the city. But a couple issues, not directly related, but let me ask this. I was always taught when we went to the trash containers that they're not supposed to be placed in the street. They're supposed to be on your property. I also understood that all rubbish was supposed to be on your grass and not in the street before the pickup. Most people either don't know that or are ignoring it, but I think one of the things that gets me, stormwater management has to work harder because the leaves that people put in the street go down the curb, down into the drain, and I think coupled to what we talked about as a piece that says don't park in a bike lane, perhaps we can do all of this collectively because people don't understand that it costs them when they do stuff like that. So I would encourage you all to consider that, as an opportunity to strengthen the improvement of the bike lanes and trash collection and rubbish collection. The other thing, do we have a minimum requirement for the width of a lane? And the reason I bring that up, I'm on the board of the Presbyterian Community Center. We've just done 13th Street. I'm an old truck driver, and I would swear that if I had a truck breakdown on that new portion, you can't get by me. That is really poor engineering from my perspective. Now, I'm not an engineer, you are, but it would seem to me that if we do any kind of thing like that, we need to be thinking about what happens when a situation like that occurs and you can't get around it at all. So do we have a minimum lane requirement that would meet that?
Councilman Fitzpatrick, that's a great question. And as we look, and one of the things that Mr. Issam mentioned in the video is the 10-foot travel lane because of calm traffic. When we look at the vast majority of our streets here in the city of Roanoke, they are posted or unanimously posted as 25 miles per hour. And for that travel speed, 10 foot is the standard. Now, certainly there are conditions when we do have a larger vehicle, such as a tractor trailer, that may have some mechanical issues. That does create some problems. And that's where we just need to work collectively across the board with our partners in public safety.
The irony is I haven't seen it anywhere but on 13th Street, anywhere. And to me, we've done an adequate job of keeping that in mind. Of course, our buses in the last 10 years have gone from 96 inches to 102. That leaves you 5 inches on each side of that bus from curb to curb or line to line, I guess. I love driving, but I'm not sure I stay within the lines all the time. So, keep that in mind. But I think the big picture is if we are putting in some lanes, new construction, newly engineered, we ought to think about what happens when there is a breakdown because of what that would ultimately do to traffic. And I knew you would be the right person to say that to.
Thank you. I do appreciate that, Councilman Fitzpatrick.
Thank you.
And that's certainly something that we are attuned to, and as we make these engineering decisions, we are, of course, referencing the VDOT design guides and making sure that we're compliant with those recommendations, as well as the Federal Highway Administration. Yeah. We want to make sure that we are consistent with national standards.
Well, if you could just get a car by it, that helps you a lot. You can't get another truck or bus by, I know that part. But yeah, it just seems like to me common sense, and I think what you've done on 9th Street, it takes a while for the average person like me who's grown up here to go, wait a minute, what is that? But it also makes a tremendous amount of sense to do it that way, and I hope that we will continue to see our bike riders not only enjoy it, but appreciate what the city is investing in to make that kind of thing possible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to make sure Barbara Dirk is paying attention to us. Thank you, Barbara.
Good for you,
right.
Mayor.
Anybody else? Thank you, Ross.
My pleasure.
I do want to recognize Mr. Powell back there, Jeffrey Powell.
Are you ready for the next presentation, Mayor? Mayor,
Yes,
Vice
ma'am.
Mayor, members of City Council, please allow me to welcome Deputy City Manager Angela O'Brien, who has been instrumental in leading the City of Roanoke's response to the American Rescue Plan Act. She will provide an overview of how these funds have been implemented to support the city's response, recovery, and resiliency, focusing on critical areas such as economic development, infrastructure, and public health. And I would like to say that Mrs. O'Brien had a little incident over the weekend running. She is a runner, and we've addressed where she tripped already today. Mrs. O'Brien.
No, Mr. Roman and I went to a bar, and there were some people picking on him. I had to take up for it.
And you had to defend yourself, right?
That's the real story.
That is. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. I'm happy to be here providing a brief update on where we are as an organization in the implementation of the American Rescue Plan Act. Some recommendations and final steps. There have been a few edits to the uploaded presentation with your agenda package, so therefore I've put the updated presentation with you at the dais. I'm going to refer to the American Rescue Plan Act moving forward as ARPA. So quickly, I'm going to give us a historical overview for those listening and for those not completely familiar with our process. It's been highlighted over and over by the U.S. Treasury, the National League of Cities, and the National Civic League for its community engagement efforts and the transformational outcomes and its potential, and further supported the nomination and the winning of the 8th time All-America City. As you know, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic on March 11th, 2020, and the governor at the time declared a state of emergency for the Commonwealth of Virginia. On March 12th and on March 17th, the city of Roanoke declared a local state of emergency. The city of Roanoke approached the unprecedented health crisis in 3 stages: our response, our recovery, and our resiliency. In July 2020, the Star City Strong Recovery Task Force made recommendations to invest over $16 million into community health, local economy, a safety net, youth and education, and essential services and public safety. And those funds were made possible by recommendations from the CARES Act that was passed in 2020 by the federal government. Through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, that winter, the city of Roanoke was notified we were going to be receiving $64.5 million over the next 2 years. The schools also receiving over $50 million. In July of 2021, City Council and City Administration started meeting with focus groups and stakeholders in the community. The majority of you, administration, including myself, met with over 100 stakeholders. Additionally, the Star City Strong Recovery and Advisory Board was created, and this board worked through August and September of 2021 and made recommendations for the uses in the implementation of the ARPA funds. And over 3 years ago, you approved those recommendations. There were 3 themes or categories, if you will, or that we divided the dollars, or the dollars were determined to be utilized, and those were people, places, and governance. Of those themes, opportunities were identified for those that ranged in people from COVID mitigation to vaccination support, addressing homelessness, gun violence, advancing on substance abuse and mental health concerns, to mobility and providing equitable outcomes in the city of Roanoke. Over $10 million was dedicated to support gun violence prevention efforts, workforce development, such as the Star City Works program, a food system hub, such as LEAP, the Roanoke Financial Empowerment Center, additional staff for our homeless assistance team, Roanoke Valley Collective Response, mental health and substance abuse organizations, MetroFlex, which are the extended Valley Metro hours and days, additional bus shelters, neighborhoods of opportunities, individual assistance such as cash assistance through the Department of Human and Social Services, and a pass-through grant with Virginia Western Authority. The opportunities identified in places range from small business recovery grants to arts and cultural organizations, and grants for those, affordable and safe housing, parks, open space, regional outdoor amenities, tourism and marketing, infrastructure, sustainability, and innovation. Over $50 million was dedicated in the people theme. Here, we utilized ARPA funds for small business grants, arts and cultural organizations, the Land Bank with TAP, Partners in Prosperity, the nonprofit venues for their COVID mitigation efforts, such as the Jefferson Center, the Northwest Hub, known as the Melrose Plaza, funds for the Gainsboro Hub, Visit Virginia Blue Ridge, the Eureka Park Recreation Center, its renovations and redevelopment, Home, ARP, and the CDBG leveraging funds, Park Roanoke capital maintenance, deferred outdoor park maintenance, 4 years of the Downtown Ambassadors Program, urban tree planting, the highly anticipated regional asset with the In-River Kayak Park in Wasena, and enhancements of the target area in Belmont-Fallon, Roanoke's Biotech, Workforce Housing Trust Fund, and Riverdale redevelopment for infrastructure, specifically water. Lastly, of those themes is governance. We address lost tax revenue, facility upgrades, additional PPE for employees, leadership development and capacity building, community navigators, and to rebuild and strengthen trust in our community. Here, we funded those opportunities and are currently in the process of adding Wi-Fi hotspots in our parks, supported the tour development of Hidden in Plain Sight, and are retrofitting emergency operations centers and a backup center and other small dollar advancements. And finally, in the final update, I think, there are some recommendations. One of those is Star City Works program. That particular agreement is reaching the end of its time. Majority of those dollars are currently unspent. Since the council meeting started today, we have received a slight bit of an update from Star City Works, and that $1.5 million that I have listed there may be more like $1 million. And of those, of these dollars that are unspent, a couple projects maybe weren't utilized for the full amount that we were anticipating. So the idea is that these dollars would go to claim lost revenue to continue to advance on projects and qualified census tracts, such as the Gainsboro Hub. You all are aware that we haven't had a whole lot of efforts, well, there's been a lot of effort, a whole lot of decisions made with the Gainsboro Hub. We do have 2.5 or nearly $3 million dedicated to doing street improvements there, but there are a lot of other opportunities for us to be able to work on with the Gainsboro Hub as well. So utilizing those dollars as lost revenue will allow us to continue to use those for a short time period. And lastly, there also, before I move on, also capital improvements for the Belmont Library. Of course, that was most of this was already on a previous presentation from back in January of 2024. I realize there may be a little bit of discussion, but I want to make sure that we talk about the interest earned. So there's been nearly $3 million in interest earned. I want to say 1.3 and 1.2 each of the years. From a previous presentation, we discussed utilizing those dollars as a federal grant match, supporting the Harrison Museum with the capital restorations there, youth recreation opportunities, addressing unassigned and the stabilization reserves. And so I want to kind of pause there. There's still some conversation with the Treasury or at least with GFOA on what we can use those ARPA interest dollars for. It is possible we may need to come back and make some corrections on how we will utilize some of those dollars. The last the last information that we have is that it was unrestricted. But there, again, there seems to be some conversations that maybe that's not the case, so I just want to make you prepare you for all of that. So before I open it up for questions from you all, there's a number of people here that I asked to be here with me today because they are in the work, the day-to-day work of the ARPA implementation. So if you all will stand, just so everybody knows that if there are specific questions, I've got a whole group of people in here today that will be able to help answer the day-to-day work of those ARPA questions that you may have. And Laura, Ms. Carini, and Ms. Carini and Mr. Lethwich, I do want to give a big shout out to them. $64.5 million. You know, it sounds like it is a wonderful opportunity for our city and our organization. But this was a huge undertaking for staff, and we are still undertaking this and learning day to day. The numbers keep changing, and I just want to highlight Ms. Carini and Mr. Lethwich because without them, both of my eyes would probably be black right now. So let me pause and ask if you all have any questions or comments about the ARPA funds.
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Angie, for that great update. I just wanted to comment on a couple things and had a couple questions.
Sure.
On September 24th, I had the opportunity to represent the city on a webinar that was entitled ARPA Recovery Funds, Race and Equity, What's the Score? And we were one of numerous cities that were featured for the time we took and the effort we took to really look at this through an equity lens. In addition to myself, Richmond Vincent from Goodwill was there. We were able to talk about the market on Melrose and a lot of the transformative work. Another thing we were able to highlight was something we did as a city, not just once, but twice. You mentioned that the first round of funding was the CARES Act funding in 2020. The second was the ARPA funding. On both of those occasions, the City Council appointed two separate citizen panels that helped us identify needs and priorities and how we would help distribute those funds. And so I wanted to remind the city of that we were very proactive in that regard. The other thing was that we talked about on this webinar some of the challenges, and as you identified, there were essentially three of you from city staff working on this day in and day out, from not only working with different departments, different boards in helping distribute this, community partners, but then negotiating and finalizing those MOUs and doing the tutorials and everything. One of the things that I heard on this webinar, which I know we experience locally, but it was nice to hear it from other localities across the nation. So many of the programs, or a number of the programs that we supported were grassroots programs that didn't necessarily have established 501c3s or were trying to partner with other 501c3s, nonprofit organizations. And this is not a criticism, it's just a vulnerability that I think many localities are looking at, and that is how do we better, as a locality, whatever the situation is, work with some of these grassroots organizations to give them that technical support. You know, whether it's, I've never filled out an application before. These are the guidelines I have to follow. How do I do that? You know, how do I track certain outcomes? So there was almost unanimous support that there has to be, in situations like this, work with very well-established organizations that know how to do this, but also having that technical support in place. And that's something I know we're aware of and that we're continuing to work on as a city. So I just wanted to let you and others know that this is not just something that we're working on, but it's across the nation. This was something that local governments are experiencing. The one question I had was on the Star City Works. I know that the way the MOU, we don't contract directly with Greater Roanoke Workforce Development. They're like a sub-recipient. So there is some funding that is not yet finalized, so we don't know the definite amount.
Right.
I guess one of my questions is, and I certainly support the Gainsborough Hub and Belmont Library, are there other efforts within workforce development that we need to be paying attention to in terms of the different aspects of that related to ARPA funding? And I don't know if you can answer that right now. That may be a longer conversation, but I'm curious about that, because $1 million toward workforce development could go a long way with this program that we've got established.
Right, absolutely. Ms. Creaney and I are in conversations with the Workforce Development Group, and, we really need to see how they only have short time period to provide us with updates to that agreement and how to utilize those funds. Hopefully, they're able to do that to where it is ARPA eligible.
And that's
right,
the key.
Right.
Right.
And so it's unfortunate, it's just not that simple. So it's going to be really a partnership for us to be able to figure out how to utilize those funds quickly and within the guidelines of the U.S. Treasury.
Well, I do know also in the Gainsborough Hub, there was a section of that was dedicated toward workforce housing.
Correct.
And also development. So, that might be an easier shift, but I don't want to lose that priority if we don't need to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilwoman Trish, point forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. O'Brien, under people, the funded is really clear, and I appreciate you breaking it down like that. And for the opportunities, can we use some of the interest, or you still have to wait to determine if we're as flexible as we would like to be, I guess, with those funds? Because we certainly could use it for the substance use disorder, with the issue that we have with fentanyl and the drugs, and of course our unhoused is one of the concerns, and today we realize that we really need to work more with our affordable housing. I'm just wondering, under the opportunities, can we look at some of these things that have not been funded with that interest, as opposed to some of the other things that you have on that list?
I definitely think so. That's definitely something we can look at. After the meeting on Thursday of last week, I'm a little nervous to really commit anything to that. We were definitely moving into the conversation as it was unrestricted, right? And that seems to have shifted
a little bit.
So until we definitely know, I'm very hesitant to
do it.
commit
So
anything.
if they say no, it is restricted, and you have to. So where would we focus those funds then? Is it back under the?
Probably where they tell us, because what we even have them on right now may not be
questionable.
allowable
Yeah.
to use.
Yeah, because I had a question about a few of those. We won't get into that, but
Right.
I was thinking there's some things that might be just a little bit more of a priority now, that even with some of the conversations we've had in our first meeting this morning.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I'm anxious to hear back. I don't know how long it's going to take for them to get back to you.
I hope so too.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Doug Patton.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, I'd like to commend the City of Roanoke for how it has expended its offer funds, and how the public and the community has been so engaged in the process. There are still communities across the Commonwealth whose citizens are asking, whatever happened to the money? They never told us. What did they do? And to come to a city, when I came 5 months ago, and right off could see, oh my God, they had a process. Nobody is asking what happened to the money. I commend the group that you all assigned. I commend all of the staff who have been a part, because Mrs. O'Brien has been keeping me engaged, and we're like down to the penny. And no one needs to ask, well, what happened to the money? Because this shares clearly a city that appreciated federal funds coming in as they did, and we pray never another pandemic, but to get this kind of funding to address these areas, it's an outstanding job by the city, and I commend the leadership and the staff for how they have handled it.
Thank you, Dr. Patton. And that was one of the reasons we got that all-time, that eight all-time, one of the aspects
Right.
of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very
Very
impressive.
good. Very good. Proud of you.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Make sure you check that place on your greenway.
We got it.
Yeah, I asked that question because we don't need to visit some of those things. Or not visit some at all.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, we're now down to items recommended for action. Item A is an acceptance and appropriation of the FY25 United Way of Roanoke Valley funding for the Bank on Roanoke Valley program. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph, please?
Yes. A resolution authorizing the acceptance of the FY 25 United Way of Roanoke Valley funding for the Bank on Roanoke Valley program to the City of Roanoke from the United Way of Roanoke Valley for program management and activities on the Bank on Roanoke Valley program, authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute any documents necessary to receive such funding and to take such further actions and execute such other documents as may be necessary to obtain, accept, implement, administer, and use such funds.
All right, is there any discussion by members of council? Heard none, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. Thank you. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the budget ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, could you read the title paragraph?
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the United Way of Roanoke Valley for the Bank on Roanoke Valley program, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 grant fund appropriations, and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from members of council? Heard none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes. Item B is acceptance and appropriation of 2024 Carillion Clinic Grant Award in support of the Financial Empowerment Center. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Madam Clerk, could you read the title paragraph?
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of the 2024 Carillion Clinic Grant for the Financial Empowerment Center to the City of Roanoke from Carillion Clinic, and authorizing execution of any required documentation on behalf of the city, including a letter of agreement with Carillion Clinic.
Thank you. Is there any discussion among members of council? Hearing none, then, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the budget ordinance.
Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the Carillion Clinic in support of the Financial Empowerment Center, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 grant fund appropriations, and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there any discussion among members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes. Thank you. Item number C is the acceptance and appropriation of FY 2025 Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, Highway Safety Grant Funding, Distracted Driving Campaign. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of the FY 2025 Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, Highway Safety Grant for the citywide media and education campaign, and authorizing the execution and filing of appropriate documents to obtain such funds.
Thank you. Is there any discussion among council? Heard none?
No, just thank them for that large grant. I mean, sometimes we don't say thank you, just at least say we appreciate that. That was very generous on all of them, even the one from Carillion. Just thank you for those grants.
All right, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll,
Yes,
please?
sir. Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the Department of Motor Vehicles for a citywide media and education campaign to reduce distracted driving, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 grant fund appropriations, and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion among members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
I'll call the roll right now on this.
I'm
one.
sorry, please call roll.
Okay. Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes.
That's right.
All right, item D, acceptance and appropriation of juvenile justice and delinquency prevention funding from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Department of Criminal Justice Services. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Grant made to the City of Roanoke by the Commonwealth of Virginia, Department of Criminal Justice Services, and authorizing the execution of any required documentation on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Any discussion among council members?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just for the point of transparency, I just want to disclose for the record once more that I currently serve as a board member of the Family Services of Roanoke Valley, and I do not receive compensation, so I do think I can vote on this matter. With that said, I would ask the city manager if we could have a disclosure of what this report does.
I'd like to call Mrs. Coleman, who is our Director of Human Services, to come forward and answer the question. Human and Social Services, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mayor Lee, Vice Mayor Cobb, members of City Council. Yes, Councilwoman.
Yes, mainly I was looking at your funding here for the increase for the young people, the caregivers. I was trying to figure out what is the age for the youth and that this grant is going to cover, as well as you're mentioning that it's going to be, I know it's with Family Services, and we have talked about it with the board about the Roanoke redevelopment and housing neighborhoods, but just for transparency here, would you share which neighborhoods in the housing authority this will cover?
This will cover the Roanoke Valley, the Roanoke redevelopment housing neighborhoods, and the age ranges from ages 2 to 18.
Okay, now on the housing authority side, I know we talked at the board, it was, I want to say Jamestown and I believe Lansdale. So is this covering any additional ones since the money is going to the family services?
I do not have that detail in
Okay.
regards to whether it's going to cover those additional housing.
Okay, but that's what we were talking about. I'm just looking at the increase of the funding that will increase the accessibility. That's why I was just curious. But I do want to publicly thank you for thank the city for the grant that is being given to the family services for this initiative.
Thank you.
Oh, and the other thing was, you had on here, I think it's called Wyman's evidence-based, the positive youth development curriculum. What is that?
I would not be able to answer that question because the Family Services of Roanoke Valley, they are overseeing the grant process.
So they gave you this
Yes.
information they put here. Okay, I'll take it up with the executive director then.
Ms. Starkey couldn't be here today. She was visiting family in North Carolina.
Okay, I'll just follow with them. I thought maybe it was something the city had put in there. Okay,
So thank you.
all right, thank you so much.
Any further discussion, members of council? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on this resolution?
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the budget ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services for the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Program, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 grant fund appropriations, and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
All right. Any discussion by members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes. Item E is the acceptance and appropriation of fire prevention and safety grant funding from the Department of Homeland Security. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
A resolution authorizing acceptance of the Fire Prevention and Safety Grant Program made to the City of Roanoke from the Department of Homeland Security and authorizing execution of any required documentation on behalf of the city.
All right, is there any discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the budget ordinance.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the Department of Homeland Security for fire prevention and safety, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024 through 2025 grant fund appropriations, and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
Thank you. Any discussion by members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes. I do want to mention Chief Hoback is here and his staff here with us today. All right. Item F is an authorization to apply for FY 2025 Community Flood Preparedness Funds, the CFPF grants. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the city manager or her designee to submit such applications to the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation for the FY 2025 Community Fund Preparedness Fund grants for funds for certain projects, and authorizing the city manager to take certain actions in connection with such projects.
Thank you. Any discussion among council members? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. Item G is acceptance and appropriation of the FY25 Operation Ceasefire Grant Crime Center Capacity. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of the FY25 Operation Ceasefire Grant made to the City of Roanoke by the Commonwealth of Virginia, Department of Criminal Justice Services, and authorizing the execution of any required documentation on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Any discussion among council?
Now, I was going to ask, is this going to also be handled through the gun violence prevention or some other venue? It's the ceasefire, it says for nonviolent crime, but I was just wondering how it was going to be, in particular, how it would be used.
Well, we got an event that's coming here.
I was just curious.
It's on my schedule.
I'm going to
I don't
ask
know.
representing the chief to come up and answer your
If you could
question,
use some of it for...
Councilwoman.
I was just wondering if they could use some.
And I
of the
did not
gun violence
have the officer's name. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, ma'am. Lieutenant James Price.
All right, what was the question? Could we,
Yeah, no, I was just wondering what, in particular, what kind of programs are they using it for now? I know they had a commission and they had, I was thinking it would be a part of the commission, but I understand from Vice Mayor Cobb, it would not be. So I guess you all have your own programs or something you would use the funds for to,
Full-time crime analysts.
Yes.
Full-time crime analysts.
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
these funds will be used for 2 years' worth of salary and benefits for another crime analyst to work in the crime center. And the rest of the funds will be used to obtain equipment like workstations
Okay.
and hardware like computers and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
all right, any further discussion? Thank you, sir. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on this resolution.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the budget ordinance.
All right. Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the Department of Criminal Justice Services for the Operation Ceasefire Grant Program, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 grant fund appropriations and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
Thank you. Any discussion by members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on this budget ordinance.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes. Item H is the acceptance and appropriation of FY 2025 Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, Highway Safety Grant Funding, Selective Enforcement, Alcohol. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of the FY 2025 Department of Motor Vehicles Highway Safety Selective Enforcement Alcohol Grant and authorizing the execution and filing of appropriate documents to obtain such funds.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this resolution by members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. We have a budget ordinance.
Move the ordinance, Mayor.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles for an alcohol enforcement traffic safety grant, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 grant fund appropriations and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there any discussion among council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick. And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes. Thank you. Item I is acceptance and appropriation of the 2025 Department of Motor Vehicles DMV Traffic Safety Selective Enforcement Pedestrian Bicycle Grant. There's a resolution.
Move the
Move the resolution.
second.
All right. Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph, please?
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of the FY 2025 Department of Motor Vehicles Traffic Safety Selective Enforcement Pedestrian Bicycle Grant and authorizing the execution and filing of appropriate documents to obtain such funds.
Thank you. Is there any discussion among council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the budget ordinance.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the Department of Motor Vehicles for a pedestrian and bicycle traffic safety grant, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 grant fund appropriations, and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
All right, any discussion by council members? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick. And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes.
Move the ordinance, Mayor.
All right. The budget ordinance just passed.
Yes, it did.
All right, acceptance and appropriation of the FY 2025 Department of Motor Vehicles Traffic Safety Selective Enforcement Police Traffic Services Grant. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you please read the title paragraph?
A resolution authorizing the acceptance of the FY 2025 Department of Motor Vehicles Traffic Safety Selective Enforcement Police Traffic Services Grant, and authorizing the execution and filing of appropriate documents to obtain such funds.
All right, any discussion among council members? All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. Thank you. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the budget ordinance.
Madam Clerk, could you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance to appropriate funding from the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles for traffic enforcement targeting drivers who disregard speed limits and occupant protection safety, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 grant fund appropriations, and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
Thank you. Any discussion among council members? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes. Item K is the Virginia Department of Transportation, VDOT, Transportation Alternatives Set Aside Authorization for Updated VDOT Agreement for the 9th Street Multi-Model Improvements. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
All right. Madam Clerk, can you please read the title paragraph?
A resolution authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute and update a Virginia Department of Transportation Standard Project Administration Agreement in relation to the VDOT Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside Program, making pedestrian improvements along 9th Street Southeast Corridor and authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute and file appropriate documents to obtain such funds.
Well, any discussion among council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes. There's a budget ordinance.
Move the budget ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance to appropriate local match funds for the existing street pavement account to the 9th Street Multimodal Improvements VDOT project, amending and reordaining certain sections of the 2024-2025 capital projects fund appropriations and dispensing with the second reading by title of this ordinance.
Thank you. Is there any discussion among council members? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cobb. Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the budget ordinance passes. At this time, I'm pleased to recognize Dr. Patton, our interim city manager, for any comments she may have.
Yes. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, I have a few items that I would like to bring to your attention. The Virginia Municipal League 2024 conference will be held in Virginia Beach, and the City of Roanoke will receive the VML Innovation Award for Public Safety at the Virginia League Fall Conference on October 13th through 15th in Virginia Beach. The program recognition for this award is the Lock in Safety, Unlock Hope. And following several years marked by increasing gang-related gun violence, the City of Roanoke increased its focus on policing, intervention, and prevention efforts in the community. Lock in Safety, Unlock Hope was born through the multi-pronged approach. The initiative utilized the American Rescue Plan funding to purchase 10,000 gun locks to be distributed throughout the community. The locks are located and distributed from numerous convenient locations, including all city libraries, the police department, the Department of Social Services, and the courthouse, and at special events. During the award banquet at the Virginia Municipal League Conference, the award presentation will be given to Mayor Sherman Lee, City Council members who will attend, Mrs. Angela O'Brien, Deputy City Manager will attend, and I am happy to say that the initiator of this program was Mrs. O'Brien. Let's give her a round of applause. I'd also like to report that I met with the city's registrar on this week, and we are all aware that the national, state, and local elections will be held on November 5th, 2024. I would like to share that I met with the registrar, Mr. Nicholas Ocampo. Is he here? I didn't know I invited him, but he said he may be tied up with as much that's going on with the early voting. I met with him to assure him that he has all the support needed in preparation for Election Day. I've also talked with both the sheriff and the chief of police to ensure that whatever they needed to do in preparation for this important day, and Mr. Ocampo has already been meeting with him. The registrar's team is fully prepared, and Roanoke will have a fair and free election. The City of Roanoke's response to Hurricane Helen. You have a report up front on the dais that you are seated, and we're fortunate that although we did not get the full brunt, but we got enough that our teams have worked tirelessly to get all of the debris, worked with the Appalachia Electric in order to make sure that our lights got back on. So if you would pay attention to this report that is in front. And we thank all, and we've already thanked all of our city employees who were involved. The interim city manager's roundtable gathering, which is challenges and change I told you about earlier. I will keep you updated on the dates that we set. We'd like to have 2, and we'll also invite you as members of council, if you're available. Only 2 could come to each one, but I will keep you posted on that. The next is a I can't hardly say, snow plow. Can you believe we're talking about snow plow naming contest? The Office of Communications will collaborate with Public Works to launch a snow plow naming contest from Tuesday, October the 15th, 2024 to Friday, November 1st, 2024. Residents will be able to enter names for the contest, and the winners will be announced in early December. We must have a new snow plow that we need to name? Yes, we do. We're naming them all, okay. Lastly, you are aware of Carillion's clinic that's been going around giving the free flu shots. The last one will be at the Melrose Branch Library on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, from 4 to 6 p.m. And lastly, and I'll ask her to step up to the podium now, you finally have your council follow-up report, which is a report back. And you will have this after every meeting. You will have that report that will be on the dais for you as a result of speakers who come forward to speak to you during council meetings. And Mrs. Hedrick will report to you on those speakers for September 16th meeting. Mrs. Hedrick.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. As Dr. Patton explained, I will be bringing you a report after each council meeting, primarily based on the hearing of citizens on public matters, but if there are other issues that need some type of follow-up or report back, I will be bringing that to you the following council meeting. So firstly, Mr. Paul Toulouse of Pedal Safe Roanoke advocated for protected bike lanes and intersections. A typical goal of cities is for 60% of residents to consider making some trips by walking and biking. While the city does have bike lanes, Mr. Toulouse claims that it lacks the small equipment required to plow, sweep, and maintain them, and he indicated that an investment of $200,000 would be sufficient to make these infrastructure improvements. I was able to speak with the Transportation Department, and they're aware of this proposal, and they're looking into it. They stated there are many factors to consider, including budget constraints, as well as the limited application of these types of tools, but they are looking into the solution. Mr. Toulouse was updated about this matter through the Transportation Division, and this is a little bit too late, but a report was already presented to you at this council meeting on the bike lane infrastructure and the training and all of that goes along with it. In that vein, Mayor Lee asked in the previous meeting about training or classes for drivers and bicyclists to better understand traffic rules. Mr. Campbell already presented a lot of that this afternoon. But I also included a document that explains Westside Elementary School's traffic garden, and that is open to the community on weekends as well as outside of school hours. Dr. Laura Hartman with the Bus Riders of Roanoke Advocacy Group invited Mayor Lee and members of council to participate in the Week Without Driving, which has already started, so hopefully you all walked here this afternoon. So it takes place from September 30th to October 6th. Participants basically can do anything except drive themselves to places, and their debrief meeting will be held on October 7th, which I believe is tonight, at 6 p.m. at Big Lick Brewing Company. And I also attached the press release from the Bus Riders of Roanoke Advocacy Group. Mr. Fitzpatrick has already mentioned having recognition of some of the city's awards on our welcoming signs. So Ms. Corbin with Communications is working with the airport to design and place signs with the city's certified welcoming designation. The airport has agreed to waive the fee to advertise, so the city will just be responsible for the production of the actual signage. And Ms. Corbin is also working with Mr. Campbell to design and place signs at the city limits to highlight that certified welcoming designation, as well as our 8-time All-America City win. And there was also discussion at the last meeting of the 600-year-old white oak that was struck by lightning. Mr. West with Urban Forestry gave us more particular information about the location of that tree. He did ask, however, that no statement was released yet because they want to make sure that they can preserve as much of the tree as possible. So Ms. Corbin is working with our parks manager and RVTV to document the process. They'll have cameras there and show the whole process, and then as soon as the milling process is completed, they have a press release, ready to go out to the public. And finally, just for your reference, Roanoke City Public Schools has their Take Your Legislator to School Month event on Tuesday, November 26th at 9 a.m. at Daytech. And Dr. White invited all council members to attend that event. And that is my report, Dr. Patton.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And Mayor and members of council, I missed a very important one. Thank you, Mrs.
You're
Hedrick.
welcome.
Hurricane Helen donation drive.
Yes.
The city of Roanoke has launched a donation drive to support Southwest Virginia communities affected by Hurricane Helen, particularly rural towns like Damascus and Washington County. Today, we have found out there is so much attention to North Carolina that they have asked, do not send anything right now to North Carolina. They have all that they need right now. Therefore, the team looked at cities in Virginia, in Virginia, southwest parts of Virginia, and Damascus and Washington County are in dire need of diapers, baby formula, water, and non-perishable food and personal care products. The donations can be dropped off at the public libraries, the municipal building, and the Department of Social Services through October 16th. Roanoke is coordinating with the United Way to ensure that the supplies reach those in need. The Damascus and Washington County said if we today announce and can have a significant amount of diapers or Pampers and baby formula, if it could be delivered to them by Friday, that would greatly help them. So we're going to have it on our television. We're going to promote it through Right Now and continue to reach out. And so baby formula and diapers are needed right now, and they will be taken to Damascus and Washington County before the weekend hits. Thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Moon Reynolds, for calling this to my attention. I told her we have it, and so we're announcing it today.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Damascus in Washington County, that's down there, Abington.
Yeah, it's on the old rail line.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
okay. All right, next item is city attorney. We have no comments there. Reports of committees, none. Unfinished business, none. Introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. There's a resolution in support of kidney transplant services provided by Carilion Clinic. There is a resolution.
Move the resolution, Mayor.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, could you read the title paragraph, please?
Yes. A resolution supporting the kidney transplant services provided by Carilion Clinic at Carilion Roanoke Memorial Hospital and Carillion's application to the Commonwealth of Virginia for a Certificate of Public Need, COPN, to bring kidney transplant services to Southwest Virginia through its flagship hospital, Carilion Roanoke Memorial Hospital.
Thank you. Any discussion from members of council?
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mark Lawrence, who's Vice President of Carilion Clinic, is with us, and I appreciate your willingness to bring this forward. As you all know, if you go west of Richmond, there's no transplant transfers to anybody. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to continue to raise the services that we have, only because Carilion is as big as it is, so I'm sure you'll approve it, but we are really grateful that they continue to look to the future in that regard.
Mark, good to see you. All right, Madam Clerk, you ready to call the roll?
Yes, we are.
Go ahead.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Vollison?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye, and the resolution passes.
Mayor, I walked on a resolution for designating the voting delegate and alternate voting delegate for the annual business session and meetings of the Virginia Municipal League, if you wanted to handle them at this point or with the other appointments.
Well, we can go ahead and handle it now. I don't remember my name being here, but I'll go ahead. A resolution, a resolution designating a voting delegate and alternate voting delegate for the annual business session and meetings of the Virginia Municipal League. There's a resolution.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph here?
Yes, sir. A resolution designating a voting delegate and an alternate voting delegate for the annual business session and meetings of the Virginia Municipal League. I'll continue on so that we'll know who those persons are.
Yes, ma'am.
Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Roanoke as follows. For the annual business session of the Virginia Municipal League to be held during the League's 2024 annual conference scheduled for October 13th through October 15th, and for any meetings of the urban section held in conjunction with the annual conference of the League, the Honorable Peter Volleson is hereby designated as voting delegate, and the Honorable Sherman P. Lee Sr. is hereby designated alternate voting delegate. The city clerk is directed to complete any forms required by the Virginia Municipal League for designation of voting delegate and alternate voting delegate, and to forward such forms to the league.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion by members of council? Let me just ask, Ms. Moon Reynolds, what's your role down in you?
I'm
You're
still on the
VML Board of
executive, yes,
Directors,
I'm
aren't
still
you?
on the executive committee, yes, sir,
Oh, okay.
yes.
So you get exempted from that.
So I will be there.
All right. I want to make sure who's in the house. Okay.
Yes, sir, thank you
All
for
right.
asking.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we're ready to call the roll.
All right. Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson. Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye. And Mr. Volson, you got a major job on your hands down in Virginia Beach. And
And if you can't do it, you got to back up here.
you hope you got it back up there.
I'd be worried if I reached his last meeting.
All right, any motion in miscellaneous business to come before the council? Anybody? All right, hearing none. Vacancies on certain authorities, boards, commissions, and committees appointed by council. And the vice mayor will go through those names, and if you're in agreement, once we vote, please let it be known by the saying of all nominees, if you agree with that. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. For the Roanoke Valley Broadband Authority, the appointment of Christopher Chittum to fill the unexpired term of office for Bob Cowell ending December 12, 2027. For the City of Roanoke Finance Board, the appointment of Tasha Burkett, the interim city treasurer, to fill the unexpired ex officio term of office for Evelyn Powers, city treasurer, as Ms. Powers retired. For the Architectural Review Board, the reappointment of Hussein Alam for a 4-year term. Residency waiver is required. For the Board of Trustees, City of Roanoke Pension Plan, the appointment of Fred Greer III to fill the unexpired term of office for Gregory Feldman ending June 30th, 2024, for a term of 3 years. For the Board of Zoning Appeals, the appointment of James Settle for an unexpired term of office for Sue Ellen Agresta ending December 31st, 2024, and the following new term, 3-year term. For the Defined Contribution Board, the appointment of Tanya Catron to replace Andrea Trent, who retired. Residency waiver is required. And also the appointment of Angela Vernon to fill the unexpired term of office for Paul Workman ending June 30th, 2025. Both of those are ending June 30th, 2025. And lastly, the Economic Development Authority, the appointment of Eileen Helsel for a new term due to the expiration of the 4-year term of office for William Poe ending October 20, 2024. He is not seeking reappointment.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you call the rolls on those appointments and reappointments so that we may vote on it?
Yes. Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye. All nominees.
All right. Ms. White Boyd?
All nominees.
Ms. Volleson?
All nominees.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
All nominees.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
All nominees.
And Mayor Lee.
All nominees. Thank you. All right. There being no further business set forth to come before the council meeting will be declared in recess until Wednesday, October the 9th, 2024 at 9:00 a.m. in council chamber. As a closed meeting on a personnel matter. All right, thank you.
We're all set with that.